Right. Part 3. Buckle up, kids. Shit's about to get real. We pick back up with our PCs in space, after having successfully defended the Titan train from a heretic assault. Their Inquisitor tossed them some cash for a job well done, and with Gelt in hand, most of them shuttled over to an orbiting Mechanicus trade ship to do some celebratory shopping. Meanwhile, Cassius managed to secure a visit with one Tarthero Drogan, the young heiress to his homeworld. Thanks to some good social roles back on the train, she was impressed enough to give Cassius some private fencing lessons aboard her ship.
So, my lady, are you...
If you thought this was a social call, you were mistaken. You are going to learn how to use that blade tonight, or I will break you in half. If you learn fast enough, then there may be some time for flirting.
I have never been so afraid of or attracted to someone in my entire life.
After a couple of days in orbit, the party was once again called before their Inquisitor. Their job wasn't done yet. Thanks to the threat of plague being spread by everyone on board the Titan train, the party's Inquisitor had ordered the planet locked down until a cure could be synthesized. Luckily, the party had gotten a pure sample of the disease to a lab earlier on, so a cure was nearing completion by now. It would be the party's job to finish what they started, going back planetside to pick up their squadmate Solomon, defend the lab where the cure was being made, and bring it back to orbit so exposed individuals could be cured and the lockdown lifted. The party arrived via transport ship, getting ready to reconnect with Solomon and settle in for guard duty. While the party were continuing their mission, the local tech priests had been giving Solomon some upgrades, transforming them into a Skitarii Crimson Guard, a cybernetically altered super soldier that has the potential to become even deadlier than their regular cybernetically altered super soldiers. With Solomon back, the party settled in for a couple of days of quiet guard duty, while the local tech priests worked on analyzing the plague samples. And as each day passed, things got worse. Reports came in from across the planet of servitors breaking down, their bodies rejecting their cybernetic augmentations and experiencing signs of necrosis. Not only that, but many of the tech priests and cybernetically augmented people on the planet were getting sick. Solomon himself was experiencing regular pain and nausea that went beyond the side effects of his surgery. While checking on the tech priests who had been working on the cure, the party found them all dead in their lab. Most of them had drowned in their own blood after their bodies rejected their respiratory implants, while others had succumbed to infection after their bodies began to rot wherever they were augmented. Somehow the researchers had become exposed to the sample they were working on, and it had killed them. The party searched the lab for anything that could help, finding the tech priest's research logs. According to the logs, the plague caused its victims' bodies to attack any cybernetics it had been implanted with, causing the implants to fail and the body to die when implanted. The logs and notes from the priests even made it sound like the disease was somehow supernatural, and directly attacked the machine spirits which their religion held sacred. Lucky enough for the party, however, the dying tech priests had barely managed to finish a batch of the cure. They had just enough that if they could transport it to the space elevator, an automated factory on board could synthesize more and release a huge high-altitude burst that would carry the cure across the planet. Knowing what they had to do, our party tried to contact their Inquisitor for immediate extraction while rushing out of the hospital, cure in hand. However, they couldn't get a clear signal to orbit. Not only that, but when they hit the city streets, they were greeted by the scene of a servitor wildly attacking people.
Is that normal? You're from a Forge world, right, Solomon? Please tell me that's not normal!
The party patched into local comms networks to find out what was going on, and things were not going well. The plague didn't just kill people. It also disabled the neural implants and servitors that rendered them servile, while restoring any memories that were scrubbed when they were converted. Worse yet, Nortai in its past had undergone a population control campaign, where nearly 80% of its non-vital population were converted to servitors and put into cryogenic storage. Then it dawned on them. They were trapped on a planet overrun with angry zombie servitors that wanted nothing more than to kill everything in sight, with an ally whose cool new upgrades were slowly killing him, and the only way to solve the problem was to fight their way several hundred kilometers and get off the planet. The party loaded up into a truck and drove off as fast as they could. It would take a couple of days to reach a space elevator in a car, but they figured that the train depots were probably overrun by now. For the first little while, they were making good time, avoiding combat on the roads and reaching a major highway. But almost as soon as they made their way onto that highway, they came under fire. 3 Crusader-class robots burst on the highway behind them. They were Mechanicus war machines with power swords for hands and mounted heavy weapons on their backs, which skirted the lines of tech priest anti-robot dogma by using human brains in place for computers. These agile death machines had spotted the party's vehicle and were closing in fast, spraying las cannon blasts and bolter shells while chasing them down. Novus deftly maneuvered the truck around abandoned vehicles on the road, while the rest of the party opened fire on their pursuers, engaging in a high-speed gun battle with better armed and armored opponents. Solomon and Yarny managed to chip away at the robots, firing overcharged lasgun rounds and bolter shells at weak points in their armor. The truck took the brunt of the damage, shielding the party from glancing hits as they managed to drop 2 of the pursuing robots. As the first and second robots went down, the third leapt up onto the truck's hood. Nova swerved left and right, trying to shake the machine off of the car as it grabbed Cassius and dragged him out of his seat. Cassius desperately hacked at the robot with a fencing sword that Lady Drogan had loaned him, while Rat took the wheel of the car and Novus pounded the robot with his hammer. Eventually the machine was disabled, but not without damaging the truck and leaving Cassius dangling off the side. The party stopped what was left of the truck, grabbing Cassius and planning their next move. Using a scanner they bought in orbit, they could tell that more killer robots were patrolling the highways. Another fight like the last one was too risky. They chose to try the rail yards and secure some kind of train as transport to the space elevator instead. They snuck through the city streets and quietly entered a nearby rail yard, only to find about a dozen or so servitors prowling the rails. In order to sneak past the servitors, Rad activated a device they bought in orbit called a stunmer that canceled out all sound within a few meters of them. This worked pretty well, until they got a little too close to a servitor that noticed its rage-fueled ramblings weren't making any sound. Their cover blown, the party ran like mad for safety, firing off a few shots and alerting the rest of the enraged servitors to their presence. The party climbed aboard a small maintenance train with an angry mob of servitors on their heels. Solomon and Yarny stood their ground on the outside of the train and opened fire at anything that got too close, while Rat, Novus, and Cassius made a break for the train's controls. A few rounds of exchanging fire later, and our party managed to get the train moving, the maintenance vehicle screeching to life and setting off in the direction of the space elevator. And that's what we're going to call it for now. Our PC's seemingly safe on a fast trip to their objective, but they've still got a long way to go before completing their mission on Nortai, and I wasn't even done making things worse for them. See you next time.